Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, text number 25. The title of the chapter is Yamaraj Instructs His Messengers. Kindly repeat. Prayena Veda Tad Idam Na Mahajana Ayam Devya Vimohita Matir Bata Mayayalam Trayang Jadikrita Matir Madhu Pushpitayang Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamanaha Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayang Jadikrita Matir Madhu Pushpitayang Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamanaha Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayang Jadikrita Matir Madhu Pushpitayang Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamanaha Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayang Jadikrita Matir Madhu Pushpitayang Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamanaha Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayang Jadikrita Matir Madhu Pushpitayang Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Ladies. Prayena Veda Tadidang Namahajano Yang Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Kayam Jadi Krita Matir Madhu Pushpitayam Jamanaha Prayena Veda Tadidang Mahajano Yang Devya Vimohita Matir Bhatamaya Yalam Trayang Yadi Krita Madhu Pushpitayang Aitanike Mahati Karmani Yujyamanaha Prayena almost always Veda know as in knowledge to know Tat that Idam this Na not Mahajanaha great personalities. Besides Svayambhu, Shambhu, and the other 10. Ayam, this. Devya, by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vimohita Matihi, whose intelligence is bewildered. Bhata, indeed, Mayaya, by the illusory energy, Alam, greatly, Trayam, in the 3 Vedas, Jadakita Matihi, whose intelligence has been dulled, Madhu Pushpitayam, in the flowery Vedic language, describing the results of ritualistic performances. Vaitanike, in the performances mentioned in the Vedas. Mahati, very great. Karmani, fruitive activities. Yujyamanaha, being engaged. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because they are bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajnavalkya and Jaimini and other compilers of the religious scriptures cannot know the secret, confidential, religious system of the 12 Mahajans. They cannot understand the transcendental value of performing devotional service or chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because their minds are attracted to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, especially the Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Rigveda. Their intelligence has become dull. Thus they are busy collecting the ingredients for ritualistic ceremonies that yield only temporary benefits, such as elevation to Svargaloka for material happiness. They are not attracted to the Sankirtanam movement. Instead, they are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Purport. Since one may easily achieve the highest success by chanting the holy names of the Lord, one may ask why there are so many Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and why people are attracted to them. This verse answers the question. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaischa sarvar aham eva vedyaha. The real purpose of studying the Vedas is to approach the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Unfortunately, unintelligent people, bewildered by the grandeur of Vedic yajnas, want to see gorgeous sacrifices performed. They want Vedic mantras chanted and huge amounts of money spent for such ceremonies. Sometimes we have to observe the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies to please such unintelligent men. Recently, and not so recently now, maybe 40 over years ago, Prabhupada writes here, recently, when we established a large Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, we were obliged to have Vedic ceremonies enacted by Brahmanas because the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially the smarter Brahmanas, would not accept Europeans and Americans as bona fide Brahmanas. Thus, we had to engage Brahmanas to perform costly yajnas. It was almost a trick, really, because they thus had to, having performed the yajnas for an installation, they had to accept that the whole affair was bona fide. And naturally our temple here became accepted as a bona fide temple, and not just a temple for the Westerners, so to speak. In spite of these yajnas, the members of our society performed Sankirtan loudly with mridungas. And I considered the Sankirtan more important than the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Both the ceremonies and the Sankirtan were going on simultaneously. The ceremonies were meant for persons interested in Vedic rituals for elevation to heavenly planets. Jarikita matir madhupushpitayam. Whereas the Sankirtan was meant for pure devotees interested in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was interesting. Maybe some of you were there. Ghost Thakur Prabhu, maybe, were you there in Hyderabad for the installation? No? You were there? Hyderabad. Anybody was there? The Radhakund, anybody was there? I don't know. But you may have heard about it. How in Hyderabad, when Srila Prabhupada installed the deities there also, they had South Indian Brahmin priests performing the installation ceremony. But they were so attracted by the Sankirtan that you can see it on the video. They're all dancing like anything in the kirtan afterwards, in ecstasy. They're all jumping around with their arms in the air. And Prabhupada, same thing here. That the real, even within our heart, to install the Lord within our heart, the process of installation is the Sankirtan, the glorification of the Lord's name, fame, pastimes, qualities, and so on. Loud chanting of the holy name clears away the heart, clears the environment. The Lord is very attracted to the loud kirtan. As Haridas Thakur emphasized, that loud kirtan is the method, especially in this age of Kali, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the yajna which pleases the Lord. So Prabhupada is saying here that to satisfy the local, specifically smarta Brahmins, So they accept this as authority, as being authorized. Prabhupada engaged them. It was very clever. And they couldn't really criticize it because they did it themselves. And Krishna has his plans, of course. But the main thing was that the Sankirtan, and even now, it's been going on, of course, every day, 24 hours, the chanting of the holy name of Krishna vibrates here in this temple constantly. And, of course, elsewhere too. But especially we should be, this is our business in our Krishna consciousness movement, is to spread this Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada describes the effect in the case of many, King Prachanibarhishat, for instance. He was very interested, as Prabhupada mentions here, in yajna, but mainly for elevation, material elevation, to maybe higher planets, like that, freedom from karma and so on. Different material reasons we may have. But he was performing one sacrifice after the next in different places, overdoing it, actually. Performing all these sacrifices, animal sacrifices, which were recommended. Previous ages, not recommended in this age. But he was doing like that. And Prabhupada writes that similarly, the devotees of this Krishna consciousness movement should therefore perform one sacrifice after the next without stoppage in all over the world, one after the next. It shouldn't be like, this is our business. This is the yajna, the Sankirtan yajna. The purpose of this movement is to facilitate the performance of Sankirtan yajna. That's what it's for. Now, Sankirtan includes, you could say, every activity which the pure devotee of the Lord gives us. Srila Prabhupada has given us so many activities to perform, no doubt about that. And they're all under the umbrella of Sankirtan, if they're authorized by the pure devotee of the Lord, the representative of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada has given us deity worship, and we'll read that now. Prabhupada says, he carries on here. As explained here, Prabhupada says, we would have simply performed Sankirtan, but then the inhabitants of Vrindavan would have not taken the installation ceremony seriously. As explained here, the Vedic performances are meant for those whose intelligence has been dulled by the flowery language of the Vedas, which describe fruitive activities intended to elevate one to the higher planets. We'll not get into it, but there's so many topics here. But in the Bhagavad Gita, so a lot of the instructions of Krishna are aimed at this, to Arjuna. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedas mainly deal with the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. They're flowery language. Materialistic people are very attracted to that, naturally, because they're looking for some material thing. They want some material return. So the Lord gives them that particular intelligence to have some faith in that direction. But that's not the effective process in this age. And even if they are able to do it, the problem being in Kali Yuga is that hardly you find these ceremonies are of any real value. In every Vedic yajna, there's different types of priests. The one who's chanting, the one who's arranging the various ceremonies. Then there's a checker, and so on and so forth. And the person overseeing the whole affair. They've all got to be in place. So that if there's any error, it's immediately corrected. But in this age of Kali, there's so many errors. Even when Lord Vamanadev, when he was came into the yajna, the arena of Bali Maharaj, Bhrigu to, you could say, play a transcendental trick and take everything away from Bali, which he did in one sense. And Shukracharya, Bali Maharaj's spiritual master, cursed Bali to, down you go, boy, to the lower planetary systems. You disobeyed my instruction, and you've given everything to the enemy, Vishnu. And anyway, Lord Vishnu asked our Shukracharya what fault was Bali Maharaj, and Shukracharya replied, he hadn't actually, my lord, he had no real fault. All this is orchestrated by you. Mantratas tantatas chidram dehakalar vastutaha. He said even though all the arrangements, the mantras, the chanting, the time, the place, the circumstance, the paraphernalia, everything's wrong. He said everything by anusankirtanam tava, by the performance of sankirtan, everything becomes nischidram, or faultless. Otherwise, especially in Kali Yuga, Kalayadosha Nadhe Rajanasti Hekumahanguna, Kirtanadeva Krishna, Sya Mukta Sangha Param Vijata. This Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. It's not just a few faults, it's an ocean of faults. There's faults everywhere. You don't have to look very far to find a fault. In fact, you don't have to look anywhere. They're right there with us. Prabhupada even said that no one can follow strictly all the rules and regulations of brahmachari life, grihastha life, vanaprastha life, sannyasi life, this thing, that thing. No one can follow. We try, as Prabhupada, has introduced these things. We're doing deity worship. This is, of course, the process for Dwapara Yuga, but recommended for God realization. And sometimes we do some yajna, which is recommended in Treta Yuga, like that. But primarily speaking, these are to support our performance of Sankirtan. They have there's a lot more to it as well, but they're there specifically so that we can be a little bit clean and pure in heart, a little bit more serious about what we're doing, the vows that we take. And on top of that, from the preaching, just see how many people are coming here to the Krishna Balaram Mandir, or practically any temple of ISKCON, depends where it is, but so many temples. People just pour in. I just opened up a big temple in Malaysia. Nobody was coming before. I don't know how it is now, but when I was there last time, hundreds of people coming every day. They're naturally attracted to opulence or to some beauty. Even in Western world, in some places like in New Varshan in Auckland, regularly we have old age people coming in busloads. They come on a day outing. Check it out. They go to the winery next door. Then they go to the liquor shop. They go to all these places, famous places nearby. And then they drop them off at our temple for a couple of hours. And they have they enjoy it. And it's amazing when they see the temple and the deities, their eyes pop out practically. Oh, it's so beautiful. What is it? They have no idea what it is. Who are those statues? They're so beautiful. And they're taking pictures. And as Prabhupada said, we don't need temple. But because people will not come if we preach under a tree very much. They did in Tompkins Square Park 50 years ago, but there's a different sort of group of people. But in general, even then Prabhupada had opened a preaching center in 2nd Avenue 50 years ago so that people could follow up. This is not Satya Yuga. People need some focus, something to, so let's say audio-visual kind of focus there. We're not so easy for us to maintain our attention. The deity worship, just to have that consciousness of doing it for pleasure of Krishna, dressing the Lord, offering our food to the Lord. We wouldn't probably do it otherwise. We just kind of look around, see there's no one around, and eat it. Make sure there's no one watching, and just eat it. It's vegetarian, isn't it? Must be all right. But I've got to offer it to the deity, got to offer it to Krishna. There's sort of like, some kind of, what you say, and a buffer there. And but even yajnas, it makes it a little bit more, I took a vow in front of the fire, even though it's not performed properly by Vedic standards. It creates a samskara, an impression in our heart, which makes us a little bit serious about Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada has given us so many different facilities, but it's primarily so that we can actually just remember Krishna. It's all based on that principle. Somehow or another, remember Krishna. Otherwise, what's the use? It's Shrama Evi Kevalam. We could do 1,000,000 yajnas and chant 1,000,000 mantras, but if it's not softening our hearts and helping us to remember Krishna, it's not really of much value. That's the purpose. Dharma svanushthitak pungsam vishvaksena katasya pariyadi yadiva ting Shrama Evi Kevalam. Whatever we do is really a useless endeavor unless it helps us to awaken our remembrance of Krishna. So this is, especially Prabhupada says, in this age of Kali, Sankirtan alone is sufficient. It's sufficient. Don't need anything else. All perfection. if the members of our temples in the different parts of the world simply continue Sankirtan before the deity. And Prabhupada emphasized this is a very important activity, to chant and dance in front of the deity. Everywhere. We go out on the street, Krishna's everywhere. To spread that mercy everywhere. That's our mission. In front of the deity too. It's very purifying. It's not necessarily we're seeing the deity. The deity is seeing us. And when he sees us dance and chant, he's very happy. Of course, it depends, again, on our motivation and a few other factors. But in principle, it's the activity which is pleasing to the Lord. And most worship, deity worship, must be accompanied by congregational chanting of the holy name, Sankirtan. It's not just about doing the rituals alone. Chanting should be going on too. And of course, there are many devotees now. But many times in years gone by, still there in some temples, there's only the Pujari. Nobody else is around. And it was the standard during Prabhupada's time. The Pujari would lead Kirtan throughout the arati. There's no question of just standing like a statue or playing a tape player, recorder or something as we do now. But the Pujari had to sing during the arati. That was always the standard, at least in the early 70s. Singing away as you were offering the arati instead of counting 1 to 10 or whatever it is you learn. 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever you do as you offer the arati. But, you know, focusing on the Sankirtan should also be there. Especially before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we do that, Prabhupada says, we'll remain perfect. Lord Chaitanya Nitai Gaur. Deities, especially the worship of Nitai Gaur, is the Sankirtan, chanting and dancing. Nevertheless, to keep oneself clean in habits and mind, deity worship and other regulative principles are required, and they're very important for all of us. They go on side by side like two tracks of a railway line. Pancharatriki Vidhi and Bhagavat Vidhi go on side by side. We'll fall off if we just try to do one or the other. We have to have enthusiasm, purity to preach, and for enthusiasm to carry on, we have to chant and dance and preach. There is no need of any other performances. Jiva Goswami says that although Sankirtan is sufficient for the perfection of life, the archana or worship of the deity in the temple must continue in order that the devotees may stay clean and pure. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore recommended that one follow both processes simultaneously. We strictly follow his principle of performing deity worship and Sankirtan along parallel lines. This we should continue. And unfortunately our time is very short. And I was going to cover a few topics, but we're just focusing on one. One of the topics we're not going to touch upon is the fact that Sankirtan itself, particularly in this age of Kali, fulfills the purpose of all other sacrifices, and how much other sacrifices are basically ineffective in this age, although they're attractive to materialistic people. But we're going to focus a little bit on Srila Prabhupada. This is the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's coming to the West. It's also right now, as those who've been in Govardhan. Sri Radharaman Prabhu, you were there. And how many of you were at the Govardhan retreat? Well, quite a lot of you had the good fortune of hearing that transcendental message of Sankirtan. That's also Sankirtan. We're hearing the glories of Krishna, is what it means, Kirtan, the glorification of the Supreme Lord. And it's so purifying. Satam prasangam amavir sangvido bhavanti vitkarna rasayana kataha, isn't it? You feel so, you don't have to do anything else. Just sit and hear attentively, right? And even if you're sleeping, there's still some benefit there. You're sleeping in the temple, but try to stay awake if you're having any problems. There are techniques of staying awake during Bhagavatam class, but I won't display them today. I didn't bring my water pistol. That was one of the old techniques. Did you ever see that in LA or anywhere? The old water pistol? The temple commander would be there with his water pistol. Or you throw something at somebody. hit them with a mobile phone. Ponk! Wake up. It's all right. But very purifying to hear this topics of Krishna Katha. This is facilitating it. Temples are to facilitate so we can come together. Prabhupada writes, purport, nectar of instruction. Purpose of our society is to make facilities so people can come together and hear and chant about Krishna. But we're not so pure, we can't do it all the time. Many other things obviously have to be done. The regulated principles are to support it. Everything's to support it. Temples, the daily worship, of course, that in itself is a process of purification and perfection, but hardly we can expect that is possible with the mercy of the pure devotee. Prabhupada's given us all these things. He's passing on, as he says here, the instruction of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. When Prabhupada was in Radhakund with his Guru Maharaj in the 30s, 1930s, he received that special instruction from his spiritual master. If ever you get money, print books. Prabhupada said that he received pretty much most of the practices of devotional service from his father. But specifically he received this from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. If ever you get money, print books. And we know also right now, but many of you here also, is the Srila Prabhupada book marathon, which I presumably is going on more or less everywhere throughout ISKCON, and also here, of course. And it was during Prabhupada's time, it was initiated in the early 70s, maybe 73 or 74 in LA. And then it spread throughout the whole world, and it became like a transcendent, really, I mean, what can you say? Many of you have taken part in this wonderful opportunity to serve Prabhupada. As Prabhupada's business is to do everything to help us to have Krishna in the center of our lives. That's what it's all for. To try, that's what we're meant to have, and that's the purpose of our lives, to live our lives with Krishna in the center. And that's where you can say fulfillment of our existence, satisfaction, whatever we're looking for in life comes, to the degree that we're having Krishna in the center of our lives. Pure devotees, because that's the business of the Guru, is to behave, teach, live their lives, inspire everyone else in such a way, because they're so much focused on Krishna that anyone who hangs around will also focus on Krishna. That's the idea. Unfortunately, I don't have any such qualification, but we can remember Srila Prabhupada. Every single member of our ISKCON society, especially this year, next year also, 50th anniversary of ISKCON's incorporation, can remember this fact. We're all here but by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, isn't it? Would any of us be sitting here if Srila Prabhupada had not come to the Western world? Probably not. I mean, this temple wouldn't be here anyway. For sure. None of the temples would be there, would they? Would there be any temples in ISKCON? There would be no ISKCON. There would be no BBT. There'd be no Prabhupada book marathon. There'd be no Govardhan retreats. There'd be no 24-hour kirtans. There'd be no daily worship outside of whatever is here in India, or was there in India, still is. Some Gaudiya Mat, etc., worshipping Panchatattva, Gaurnitai, etc. There'd be nothing. And even there'd be no preaching practically. Prabhupada has made all the facilities throughout the world for others to also preach in. Otherwise, you've got to go out there, as Prabhupada did, rolled his sleeves up, walk on the dirty streets of New York and preach to dirty hippies or whatever. So all kinds of different persons who are considered to be not exactly the most elevated amongst human society. Certainly not. You know, maybe amongst Varna Shankara, amongst the Antyajas, the outcasts, whatever you want to call it. But Prabhupada preached out there. He did it at the age of 70. He didn't do it when, most of us are not 70, some of you are. I'm too old, Prabhu, for that. I did that before. Prabhu was 70 when he was going the streets of New York and everywhere else on his own, preaching Krishna consciousness. No one else did it. Simple as that. They may have tried a little bit, but then they gave up. But Prabhupada did it, and he never gave up. And he's given it to us. And Prabhupada is you can say, the spiritual protector of our movement. He's the spiritual inspiration of our movement. All our business is to pass on that shelter. It's not that we've got some competitive capacity or anything. It's just passing on Srila Prabhupada's unlimited mercy in the form of his instructions, in the form of his books. And that's the same for literally every single devotee everywhere, every person in the world. The Guru is one, no doubt coming from Krishna. He appears in many forms. But for us in this Krishna consciousness ISKCON movement, he is the primary Siksha Guru for each and every devotee in our movement, and always will be as long as this movement exists. And our business is to help others to follow that Siksha, chanting the holy names, worshipping the data according to the way Srila Prabhupada would like it, not according to the way I like it. This is the process of pure devotional service, learning from the pure devotee how we can behave in such a way which will please Krishna, because they live their lives like that. Srila Prabhupada is teaching us how we can mold our lives for the pleasure of Krishna, particularly by the performance of Sankirtan. And it's wonderful because, in fact of the matter is, even during Prabhupada's physical presence, if you want to call it that, on the planet, many devotees never saw him. They were initiated, they never even saw Prabhupada. In some parts of the world, last year or two, Prabhupada didn't travel so much, and he didn't go to most of the temples anyway. So many devotees got initiated by mail, but their heart and soul sold to Srila Prabhupada. And the same opportunity facility, although is there for now, we've got extra addition of Prabhupada's followers to help us to adhere to, you could say, Srila Prabhupada's merciful umbrella, giving us that shelter to protect us from the onslaughts of this age of Kali, by taking shelter of his Siksha, the instructions, just like we're sitting here today. This is part of his Siksha, the morning program, the evening program, going regularly for Sankirtan, regularly, just like now is the Prabhupada marathon. I mean, Prabhupada said some things, time and circumstance. Practically speaking, we said we can close the doors of the temple and just leave one or two devotees back. Everyone can go on Sankirtans. That's a time and circumstance instruction. In other words, obviously, if there's a lot of people coming to the temple, that's Sankirtan. You've got to be there to receive the guest. But the principle is there. We should be performing Sankirtan as much as possible. That was Prabhupada's mood. His mood. Distribute books, as many as possible. He got this instruction from his Guru Maharaj, and he fulfilled that instruction with his heart and soul, and expected us to carry it on. So anyone who does that is serving Prabhupada, and Prabhupada will be very, very pleased. With any devotee who's distributing his books, you'll get his mercy. And this way you can feel Prabhupada's presence. Everyone can feel Prabhupada's presence when we follow the same instructions. Just like in Krishna, if we ever attain this state of pure Krishna consciousness, you know, it's not just Krishna's not alone. He's there with Prabhupada, all the pure devotees, all of our gurus, our parampara, everyone's there. He's not alone. So we're not alone. Prabhupada's there with us now. He's guiding us. Prabhupada even said that his spiritual master was with us in this Krishna consciousness movement. Bhakti Vinod Thakur is overseeing, protecting us. They're all there, if we a little bit do understand it, to give us their mercy. We just have to take the advantage of that. This brings unity in our movement. The whole point of our movement, unity and diversity. Yes, we have many diverse gurus, we have many diverse tendencies, desires, and cultures, and so on. But when we put the Acharya in the center, Srila Prabhupada's instructions, Srila Prabhupada's wishes, desire, his movement in the center of our lives, then we can have real unity. We're all in the same boat. Prabhupada is the captain of our ship to guide us across this very difficult ocean by the performance of Sankirtan in its many various forms. And it's only because of his grace there is anything outside of a few temples in India which we could vaguely describe. Outside of India, there's nothing Krishna conscious at all, practically speaking. Related, but not as mentioned here, different religions, different processes may be there, but they're hardly touching the point. Krishna Pamartha Mahan is hardly on the menu. It's all about money and elevation to heavenly planets and freedom from reactions and sense enjoyment and this sort of stuff. But Prabhupada is giving the most valuable jewel to the whole world. The most valuable jewel. And it's still there, we just have to carry it. He's left it behind. It said when the pure devotees come, they bring the boat of devotional service which anyone can take shelter of, and they leave the boat behind. That boat is still there in the form of his books, in the form of his movement, and so many other forms. So just take advantage of it. It's a wonderful opportunity. And the performance of this Sankirtan Yajna, Lord Chaitanya has come for these two reasons. specifically to taste the nectar of Krishna Prema by the performance of congregational chanting of the holy names, thus accompanied by his devotees, his confidential associates. He performs Sankirtan Yoga and distributes it even to the untouchables. And he's with a wreath. He wove a wreath of the holy name and Krishna Prema with which he's garlanded the entire material world. So we take advantage of this opportunity to get into the fire of, somebody probably we use this term, get fired up, get into the fire of Sankirtan, hearing and chanting the holy names, pastimes, form, qualities of the Supreme Lord. We've got to get into it, open up. There's a beautiful statement in the Chaitanya Mangala which describes how the tongue is like the sacrificial ladle, and the ears are just like the sacrificial openings of the fire yajna, and the ghee is like the nectarian sound vibration of the holy name, form, and qualities and pastimes of the Lord. So when the ladle of the tongue pours that nectarian ghee of the holy name and Krishna Katha into the sacrificial openings of the ears and enters deep into the heart, it ignites a blazing fire within the heart. Not only does it burn away all of anything but devotional service, clears away all other intentions, all the anarthas, etc., etc. It creates this blazing fire. We hear this Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadevagni Navarpanam. It burns up all the blazing fire of material existence and ignites the fire of pure devotional service within the heart. And thus the body then begins to erupt, and the hairs one starts to experience ecstasy. This is the process. We have to open our ears and heart and hear that sound vibration. And to do that, as Sutta Goswami explains when discussing with the sages in Naimishranya, how we have to hear this message with rapt attention. Prabhupada says to hear with rapt attention. If we can hear with rapt attention, we'll see Krishna on the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But to hear with rapt attention, one has to be pure in mind, To be pure in mind, we have to be pure in our activities, eating, sleeping, etc., etc. This will help us to be able to hear it. Clear, just like the sages in Naimishranya, they were performing a great yajna, but there was nothing but smoke. They couldn't even ignite the fire, And they were greatly qualified because Kali Yuga was beginning. And the Lord had another plan. So then when Sutta Goswami came along and began to speak on all the various transcendental topics and eventually Srimad Bhagavatam, and then all the dust, all the smoke was cleared away, all the dirt was cleared away. And because they were very attentive, we can't hear because the ether is so surcharged with so many unbelievable amount of sound vibrations in the ether. We can't see them. They're in a subtle form. All the mobile phones and the internets and all the different, whatever it is, kind of radioactivity, etc. in the ether, creates a disturbance in the ether. So sound gets muffled. It doesn't go cleanly. It's not pure. It's like pure water. You can see through it. But it's like cloudy. The ether's cloudy. And not only that, but our minds, most of us probably haven't got such fixed minds to just hear 100% without any interference. It's like trying to tune it. So all these other activities especially are there to help tune us so that we can hear the holy name perfectly. That's true humility. There's no other, that's surrender to Krishna. There's just hearing the name. We're not surrendering to any other thought that comes in the mind. We're just surrendering to that sound vibration as it enters into our minds or our hearts. This is the process. Because those sages, they have minds were completely pure. Therefore, the ether was completely pure. There was no sound. Even the birds stopped moving. They stopped flying. They stopped everything. The trees stopped. The wind stopped blowing. Everything stopped, stunned in that moment to hear. And that way, one can actually receive the full nectar, which we're always anxious when we hear, with that purified heart. So the whole process, the whole arrangement of our sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, is to help to bring us to that point where we can actually hear, purely hear, the transcendental sound vibration. Chant and hear the sound vibration of the Lord's name and pastimes and so on and so forth. So this is the yajna, this is the sacrifice of this age. It's a sacrifice to give up these other things just to facilitate the performance of Sankirtan and to hear the sound vibration of the holy names. Well, it's almost, we gotta go. I gotta go to Delhi. We got to go somewhere, flying. One or two, we were going to read some nectar from Srila Prabhupada from the Namamrita. Read this book, please. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, but we don't have time, so we will leave it today. Are there any questions? Comments? Yes, Prabhu. A microphone.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I don't know if it's possible for us to understand what Jiva Goswami mean, or the impulse of the world Jiva Goswami used with the purpose that the Sankirtan Yajna is specific propagation for this age.
Since I didn't quite catch the whole question or comment. Did anyone catch it clearly? I'm not physically good at hearing in any respect, not to speak of spiritually. Can someone repeat it in a very clear way nearby? It doesn't have to be on the microphone this time. Did you hear it, the question?
Yes, I can.
No, yeah, but I might not hear it again because it's the same muffled microphone. Did you hear it, Sri Radharaman?
He's referring to the comment in the purport, referring to Jiva Goswami.
Yes.
And asking for any further
Yes.
explanation of that.
Well, not in the purport. That's the end. That was the end of the purport. The comment was that Jiva Goswami said that it's important that we should perform both activities side by side, both deity worship and whatever follows on there, all the various activities of cleanliness and regulation and etc., and Sankirtan side by side. Yes. Well, we did mention briefly that these two, like two tracks of a railway line, they have to go on side by side, and Prabhupada says there, to keep us pure. Because, when you're going out and preaching particularly, and even if you're sitting here, we all know that you can be sitting here and your mind is in another world sometimes, and you're just looking around, and sometimes you go to the Kirtan Mela, and, it's not that everyone's necessary. The whole idea is to get everyone to focus on the sound vibration and put other things aside. But not everybody is necessarily at that level. Some people are looking around to see what the girls look like, or to look what the boys look like, or to see, if their favorite Swami is there or something, or whatever it is, Some diverted thing may be going on also. And it really does. It helps us to focus. When you see the deity, that picture of the deity can be impressed within your heart. We used to carry, when we would go on Sankirtan, we'd always carry a picture of Radha Landanishwar with us, wherever we went. It was like standard practice. It wasn't like your thing. Everyone did it, practically. Or the lotus feet of Krishna, not Radharani, but Krishna. We would see those lotus feet. The lotus feet of Krishna, we would carry a picture with us and meditate on it. When you're having some, it's challenging going out there and especially in the Western world, and meeting people and trying to distribute Prabhupada's books. It's a real challenge to, we're not so transcendental. And, they're affected by the modes, and we may also get affected by the fact that they're affected, and we may also be affected already anyway. So when we have that reminder, it helps us to be a little less affected by the environment, It's really, and it brings us all together. If there was no deity worship, what would we do? It brings all the devotees together 4 o'clock in the morning. Would you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning if it wasn't for deity worship? Probably not. Unless you had to go to work or something, isn't it? People get up at that time to go to work to get money. But, we would probably be lying in bed till 8 o'clock if it wasn't for the fact there was a morning program going on, Oh, and it used to be like that in London, all over the world, until about 1970 it was like that. There was really up to 11, 12 o'clock on Harinam Sankirtan, and get up at 7 or 8 in the morning. This is the usual fare. Prabhupada then introduced standardized, let's say regulated sadhana bhakti in terms of archana and deity worship and so on, to help purify us. Because to continue in devotional service, the force to help, for ourselves to continue to help bring others up in Krishna consciousness, purity must be there. Purity must be there. Purity is the force. So deity worship specifically is to facilitate this and development of side by side with the enthusiasm and the mission of preaching. Although everything's there in chanting the holy names in performance of Sankirtan, for most of us, our minds are too disturbed. We need other things there to regulate, to focus, to help to keep us on track. Otherwise we fall off real easy. We're not very good at tightrope walking. We look down all the time. If you're doing tightrope walking, you've got to look down. You don't look down. That's the secret. You've got to walk on that rope. You see the kids last week down in town. Many of them were walking on ropes on some special day. Tightrope. They've got to keep their mind fixed on the goal at the other end. As soon as the mind goes off that fixation, they fall off the rope. If you have two ropes, it's easy. 1 foot on each rope. You can balance easy, you see. So it's help balance us on this path. Because when we're doing Sankirtan or your mind gets wandered. Some girl comes along, some boy comes along, something in the shop, something, whatever it is, something attracts our mind. We get carried away. So this helps us to be a little bit more stable on our endeavors to make this progressive path towards the ultimate perfectional goal of life. So Prabhupada, he's given us what we need. You just have to take shout of it. And that shout is there for all of us. Don't think we can all have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Every one of us has or must develop a relationship with Prabhupada through Siksha. We must make that our center focus. And we're all here just to help each other to actually, let's say, follow that Siksha purely, more and more purely. And that's how we attain perfection, by following that instruction. So he's given us this deity worship. We should try to maintain, improve it if we can. It was pretty simple in many places in the beginning. Gradually became a little bit more developed as the years went by. And when deity worship in the very beginning in San Francisco, Jagannath installed there was just devotees with jeans and t-shirts waving a candle at the deity. That was the deity worship. That was the standard. And the devotee said, Prabhupada, is there anything more to this? We call him Swamiji in those days. Is there anything more to this, Swamiji? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, there are so many more things to this. But if I told you now, you'd faint. There's so many things. You can't believe it. And even when I joined, which was some years later, but even then, Lord Jagannath was sitting up and on top of a platform above Radhalandanishwara, and they were dressed once a week, and that was it. Deity worship took 30 minutes maximum, daily. I mean, not including the artists, I mean, dressing that part of the deity worship. And we would chant 1.5 hours japa in front of the deity every day. It was really nice, actually. I'm not suggesting we should go back to that, but it was nice. But, and we'd all be there. The thing is, it's become a little ritualistic. Everyone, in many places, the pujaris are there, and no one else is there sometimes. It's like, but we'd always be there. Then we on Sankirtan, on the Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, go nicely side by side. 6 and 8, 10 hours every day. By 9:30, be on the street, get back at 6 in the evening. And everyone would be there for a whole morning and a whole evening program in front of the deity. It's pretty nice. Nice program. ISKCON sandwich. Now I don't know what you've got. Some burger or something. And pizzas. Now we got pizzas. See? There's nothing on top of a pizza. Everyone's falling off, you see. And especially tomatoes. It's very slimy and slippery, and you can easily slip off of it. Oily. ISKCON sandwich Prabhupada gave. Morning and evening program, and then preaching during the middle. It's a really nice program. But I mean, of course, most of us are not living in the temple, but in those days, if you weren't living in the temple, you weren't a devotee. That was the definition of a devotee, basically, someone who lived in the temple. Isn't it? In the early years. No, if you lived outside, that was it. You weren't a devotee, really. I mean, there were some exceptions, but not many. So it was easy then. But, the same principle still applies. Even if you live at home, you should try your best to do what you can to have morning and evening, some kind of morning and evening program. And especially in the temple. This really is magic. It's Prabhupada's association. That's where we're losing the thread, losing the track of Prabhupada's association. And where we're not feeling, say, fulfilled maybe. Give it a go. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Sankirtan in the day, or whatever service we've got, and hear and chant morning and evening, like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Bol.